Welcome to my channel TM Chitra Teacher. In this session, I'll be explaining you the poem called The Pulley, which was written by George Herbert. So actually this poem centers on the theme. The main theme of the poem is the relationship between God and his best creation, that is man. So before I explain you the poem, let us see to the activities given in the warming up session. Now I'll explain you the poem, The Pulley, which was written by George Herbert. So he was a Welsh poet and he was a priest by profession. So Welsh means he belongs to Wales, that's the name of a country. He wrote many religious poems with a lot of imagery and concepts. Imagery means he gives a lot of images to imagine the words, what he has represented in the form of verses, that is in the poem, lines of the poem. So the poem exhibits a strange but two-way relationship between God and his worshipper. So it has been presented in a very beautiful way, the relationship between God and his creation, that is human being. So he was bestowed, that is he has presented his worshippers with all his blessings. Somewhere he holds them up with a pulley drawn to be grateful to him in all our endeavor. So that means he has given all whatever he can give, and he thought that his best creation were the human beings and he has blessed them with all the gifts what is possible. But sometimes in certain things he has kept hold of certain things with the help of a pulley. So God gives so many precious gifts to the devotee, but at the same time God also expects something in return. So what does he expect? Why does he withhold? So the pulley shows how God lifts man towards himself with the pulley of restlessness. So what is distinctively metaphysical about the poem is that a religious notion, that is an idea, is conveyed through a secular scientific image. So a religious idea, that is a concept of God, has been presented in a secular scientific image, wherein in a very practical and logical way it has been presented. So pulley shows like it pulls certain things towards it. So same way God gives all the gifts but just pulls restlessness. He uses the concept restlessness, and wherein he pulls this worshippers towards him. So now let's start with the poem. When God at first made man, having a glass of blessings standing by. So in these lines we can see the poet has introduced by saying that God at first made man. So he made the man, that is his beautiful creation, that is the human beings. And later on he has a jar full of blessings, gifts and assets, means properties. He had the whole great things. And he wants to give all this prosperity and blessing to his beautiful creation, that is his humans. And he thinks that these lovely creatures, this creation deserves all these things, beautiful things and this pleasure. So he was ready to give. So let us said he pour on him all we can. Let his world's riches, which despaired light, contrast into a span. So he thought that in these lines, the poet has beautifully explained that God tells that he would grant all precious gifts, blessings, attributes, and whatever he can. So God poured all attributes from the jar of its creation. With whatever he had in the jar, he just started pouring onto this creation. You can see here he liked to bring everything together into a jar, and he poured on the man, that is the human creation. So strength first made a way, then beauties flowed, then wisdom, honor, pleasure. So in these lines, what we can see is when the poet tells like how God has given these blessings and gifts to humans, like what kind of blessings and gifts they were. So first filled with strength, then he poured the quality of beauty, then wisdom, then honor, then pleasure. So you can see it goes in an order, one after the other. He started using it. And in the next coming lines, the God has said that God gifted almost rare and precious qualities to these humans. So hence the jar was about to be empty. See, almost he has given all. Its jar is going to be empty. But these lines reflect the idea. Notion means the idea that we cannot compare God with this normal and selfish world, because God is a symbol of generosity. Because you could see God has given so many gifts to man. He has given so many beautiful things to human because he is a symbol of generosity. He never holds anything for him. So in this line, God wants to be always with their creation and how he makes his creation meaningful. See, God doesn't want to just leave his creation, because once everything is given to the human being, then he will never think about the God, the creator. So God always wants to be very close with his creation. So when almost all was out, God made a stay, perceiving that alone of all his treasure rest in the bottom lay. So in these lines you can see, for if I should, said he, bestow this jewel also on my creature, he should adore my gifts instead of me. So here what happened is, when the jar was about to be empty and only rest means here the meaning is peace, having a peaceful life. So just that was left and God stopped. See, he gave everything, every blessing, attributions, everything he gave, suddenly stopped when rest was left. So God stopped and thought that if I gave even rest to them, then they would adore this material world. Adore means they will started liking and admiring this material world and all his gifts, that whatever he has given to them, then they would forget the God, which could be very dangerous for the creation, because creation, the human beings are going to suffer if they forget God. So in this essence, what happened is they will worship these gifts and they will forget the creator, because people will start liking and loving the God's gifts, which all are materialistic things, and they started liking that, but they will forget God. And that's the reason that God doesn't want to give rest. He kept the rest at last in the jar. So God did not give rest and peace to humans, and this restlessness will pull them towards God, because whenever human being, whatever, let him get any of the riches in this world, but when he didn't get peace and rest in his life, finally he will come back to God, to the creator. So the God here means to say that if he also confers the jewel of rest with his creature, if he holds the creature, then they will love the gifts and attributes more than God. So God kept all the jewels of rest with him. Like, it's a jewel means here it's a very precious thing. Rest is a precious thing which nobody could give other than God. So both should losers be, yet let him kept the rest. So God says that in this poem, that man should understand whom he should worship, whether he should worship God or the gifts bestowed by God. So God says that when a man starts worship, gifts and pleasure, then God and its creation, that is the humankind, would be losers or failures. See, here creator as well as creation, both will lose, both will be considered as losers. Because suppose if the humankind will start praying to the materialistic things which all were gifted by God, so God's creation would fail, and because the trait, that is a quality of wisdom God provided to them, is going to be waste. See, when human being never thinks about God, then whatever gifts God has given to them before in the form of blessings, everything will go waste. So that's why God decided that my own creation should come in search of me every time whenever they are in need. So since now till from that moment onwards, the worshipper and the God, there was a connection between them. So the creation, that is the humankind, would also fail because they are not going to contemplate their creator. That is, they are not going to worship their creator when they are not in need. So God created them for a need in to search God. So they would never think about God like who at some day is going to be helpful for the people. So one's God's good turn should never forget. One's good turn should never be forgotten. So it should be recalled. It should be remembered. So the poet says that we should never forget those who had ever given something to us. See, if we get help from someone, we should never forget them. We should remember their help, and always help will be done in a needy time. So same way, when God has given something, we should not never forget that God who gave us. So yet let him keep the rest, but keep them with repining restlessness. So means in these lines, God says that let these humans keep all our precious, all the precious gifts. Here precious gifts means rest is used as a precious gift, and earlier God has provided to them. Whatever provided like strength, beauty, all these things will be counted. Riches, many riches were given to him. So these all were considered. Honor, pleasure, wisdom, these all will be considered. So but they will deprive of this jewel of rest and peace. Deprived means they will be in need of this jewel of rest and peace. Let whatever come, but still finally human being will ask for rest and peace. That was a most important gift which they expect from God. So let him be rich and weary, that at least if goodness leads him not, wet weariness may toss him to my breast. But yet weariness may toss him to my breast. That means here in these lines God says that let the humans be rich and wealthy, but at the same time his wealth and rich keep him tired, restless all time. Because a person who is rich enough, even he also becomes tired of earning and making the things better for him. So the poet depicts God's generous nature and his affection towards his creation. Because see, when God was generous, that's why he gave all the gifts which he kept in the jar. He presented all the gifts which was kept in the jar. So you can find here the quality of God, how generous he was. So God will give shelter to everyone, no matter whatever the situation might be. But the one who shows goodness, no matter he made goodness or weariness, but God will give shelter to everyone. So God always stands with their children and never let them down like a father. So let whatever happen, but finally God will be there to save his creation. So in this poem we can see the idea of the poet is, although God has blessed humans with all rare and precious qualities like making mistakes and getting trapped in materialism. So this is the nature of human being. So to keep humans on the right path and to make sure that they keep using their precious gifts in the right way. So God made a pulley from rest and peace. So he will be pulling it whenever he finds the human being crosses their track and they are not obeying and they are misusing the precious gifts given by God, then God will start pulling from one side, so that automatically his worshipper, that is his creation, will come back to him. Okay, so this is a beautiful poem wherein he tries to talk about the precious gifts which is given by God to take the people in a right way. So God made a pulley from rest and peace, and which keeps them pulling towards the Creator, that is the God.